See, honestly, Meg, that is the most professional it gets all show. Evening, everybody. It's NFL around the UK on Sports. And we're joined by a very special guest, as I'm sure everyone who is watching can see. We had joined ballers _ Meg. Meg, welcome to Thursday Night Football show, whatever it is we're trying to call the Thursday show. We still haven't quite worked it out yet. And I'm joined, of course, with Matty. How are you doing, big fella?
Yeah, mate, I'm good as always. Thursday night, more football on the way. So yeah, life's good, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Looking forward to the weekend. It's been a manic week, but looking forward to Thursday Night Football. An interesting South matchup that normally we'd probably skim over with our in-depth prep work that we tend to do on the show, but a little bit deeper with it because Meg, you've come to join us to talk all things Falcons. First of all, welcome to the show. Welcome to Sports Mag UK and the mayhem that is us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Meg. I'm based in the northwest of England. Became a football fan really recently, to be fair, last year, and headfirst dove into Falcons fandom, and have never really emerged from that since. So, yeah, that's me.
Okay, and when you say dove into, why the Falcons? Just out of all of the teams, what grabbed your attention?
So basically, on weekends, I do like security work. I'm a bouncer, basically. And my boss was big into American football, and I lost a bet with him. I can't even remember what the bet was, but he said, if you lose this bet, you have to support the Falcons, same as me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to lose the bet. I'll get to choose my team. Lost the bet.
I have many questions.
I thought you were going to say you won the bet that chose the Falcons anyway. That would have
yeah. I feel like you always, it's going to be a good story when it starts with it started with a bet, and then here we are. What was the bet? Was the bet anything good? Like, was it like a particularly juicy bet?
Before you go any further, was the bet broadcastable?
Yeah. No, it was. I think it was something to do with me saying it was going to be a quiet shift, or like there wasn't going to be any trouble or something like that, and then it ended up
you've
in
done
like
me, you jinxed it. Yeah,
carnage.
never do that.
You've done the Matty.
Never do that.
I was a rookie back then.
You did the whole rookie mistake of it's going to be quiet. It's like yeah, sounds like a plan. So when was it? How long have you been in with the Falcons then? How long has Atlanta had your heart, as they say?
Last summer, really, to be fair. So quite recent.
So early days.
Yeah.
Wow. So interesting time for Falcons then, obviously, because if you've not had, as you know, you're quite new to it. It seems a fresh new team this year with obviously the changes that they've gone through, getting finally the missing piece that they may have been missing for a while in a QB, although he doesn't look particularly mobile at the moment. And obviously you've got a fair few weapons on offense. So how have you found the early part of the season, or as you say, if this is your first season in, how are you finding being an NFL fan in the UK as well, with the late nights and the difficulty trying to find your screens and trying to find the teams you want to watch?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who knows me knows how invested I got in the draft. It was about 2 weeks worth of in-depth research, historically looking at my team, where we'd gone wrong, where our gaps were. There was a whole sheet of paper. There was all
good effort.
Levels.
We went to similar levels, didn't we, Matty?
Oh, big time. Yeah, my draft prep is around here somewhere. Yeah, my mountains of paperwork. Yeah, definitely here.
Yeah, I mean, mine, I think we're joking, but I think it's probably going to happen and it's going to be framed in, we call this Falcons HQ, but it's going to be framed up here somewhere.
Nice.
So I started off, I became really invested in Grady Jarrett last season. I really liked him. You probably link the Tom Brady hatred there, but Grady Jarrett was the kind of starting player that had my eyes on. And then obviously our quarterback last year, we were just, I caught the tail end of the season last season and it was a bit of a shambles, to be honest. So when we signed Cousins, I thought, do you know what, if he comes fresh from his injury and we can get a good season out of him, realistically, he's not going to be there forever. He's, getting on a bit.
Well, you gave him a massive contract for 5 years,
but we signed him that massive contract. So imagine our surprise when first picking our draft.
Not who was everybody. I'm guessing your draft prep went totally out the window when that draft pick came in, because
it absolutely did.
I think I had you picking a defensive end or something. I think
I did. I
don't think anybody, like even the experts of drafting, would have looked at that draft and thought that's where they're going. Like I feel like that was a real like sucker punch for everyone's like mock drafts around the world. That was a real like.
It's almost like the owners of the Falcons have gone, yeah, we've got Cousins, we've signed him to a massive guaranteed contract, everything's set, our QB is set. You all think this is what's happening. I mean, totally left field pick.
Yeah, I mean nobody
Loved the pick from a player perspective. A really good player. I watched him in college. He's a great, he had reminiscence of Steve Young to his left arm throwing action. So that's why I liked him coming out of college. But then it's a weird pick because he's not the youngest coming out of college, because obviously college players in the last few years have had a few extra years with COVID and all that sort of stuff. So he's quite, long in the tooth for a college player. He's also not going to start for 2 years with Cousins, guaranteed contract and whatever else. Although we might delve into that a bit as we progress into what we're talking about. So it just seemed like a very odd that, maybe the Falcons, he's on. It seems to get him now when you haven't even seen what Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think the fan base, and so my group chat just went absolutely riots when they announced Michael Penix. I was like, what? And like you said, the mock draft kind of went straight out the window. There was a lot of swearing on my part, I have to say. And I was like, I can't believe they've done this. And, I was a little bit hesitant about Raheem Morris coming back, and I was a bit, shady on that. So then I was like, what kind of team have I picked? I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Welcome to the NFL fandom.
Yeah. But, I think looking forward now, I've calmed down a lot since, February. I feel
like... Has it taken this long, has it?
It has taken this long. It has, I won't lie. But I can kind of see the forward planning that's gone into it a little bit. Watching him during the preseason games, I could see that, a lot of his style wasn't really a Falcons style play when he joined us. I couldn't see how he was going to fit our team. But giving him that length of time where we've got Cousins as that overlap, as that kind of teacher or mentor kind of figure, maybe it definitely improved. His game definitely improved. And you could see him even just in those 3 preseason games improving week on week and learning from the mistakes that he was making, which, what more can we ask for realistically?
Yeah, I think it's like any rookie QB who comes out of college. College game is they have so much more time, so much more, options and running and stuff like that. So those preseason games for the rookies, when they get thrown in, it is a steep learning curve. And, all you can hope to see from them is you've gone in week 1 and looked like a deer in the headlights. You've realized that the NFL is so much quicker, even on preseason. Have you progressed in those couple of games to show, that you've understood and you've progressed and you're learning a few things? And maybe it is, as you say, that they're following, and I hate to use the moniker, but they're following the Green Bay method of, we've got an experienced QB. He can sit, he can learn, he can watch. We might put him in for a quarter, or when we're winning games, or in its garbage time, or whatever else. But your role is to sit, learn, and become a QB for the future. And maybe that is it. It's just what niggles at me is, then why didn't they take one of the younger ones? Because age of Penix just almost not quite makes sense, because at the time he actually going to get to play, I think he's already going to be 28.
Yeah.
And he'll be 2.5, maybe 3 years into his first rookie contract. So if he plays a blinding first season, you're on the hook for another massive QB contract. And it's like, so there's a few bits and pieces that scratch my head about it. So I think than that, I
think as well, he the fact that we chose him overshadows a lot of the other rookies that the signings that we did make. So there's a fantastic rookie who really showed himself through the whole preseason, Casey Washington at wide receiver. And, I was watching that guy play and I was like, I'm putting him on my fantasy bench. I am keeping that guy because he is going to do things this season when we get our injuries that we're guaranteed. We all know what's going to happen. It's going to be catastrophic at some point. And so, I think everybody kind of focused that kind of hatred for Michael Penix being signed as our first pick, but actually we did make some good choices. And, Casey Washington was pick 157, something like that. And, and he's going to do some good things, I think. And I think he is one player that just kind of slotted straight into the team and kind of played our style and kind of fitted in with us. So we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of optimism around the Falcons. I think the Cousins signing did make people sit up and take notice, because I think last year there were pieces there and people could see the pieces were being put together. You've got possibly the best tight end in the league if you could ever work out how to play him and use it. That's a dig at the Falcons, for crying out loud. What are you doing with the best player that's come out in tight end for years?
Not giving him the ball.
Give him the ball, for crying. Put him on somewhere. Play him in the slot. Do something with him to make him.
Don't question why we're not getting offensive touchdowns in a game that we should have been getting offensive touchdowns in. If you're not getting Kyle Pitts the ball.
And then you look at your wide receiver, you got Drake London. Then you look at your backfield, and you got the 1-2 punch of Algair and then Robinson. You're like, all the pieces are really there. You just needed that, QB general to come in and put all the pieces together. So I thought it was going to be a great season for you when Cousins came in. Obviously, the whole draft shake-up. I think your O-line probably still isn't the strongest, which is possibly not helping you. But as you say, also probably the new coach bedding in, getting an understanding, because your previous coach wasn't very good. I'm just going to put that back. But you only started supporting us so we could slate Arthur Smith as much as we liked last year. It was bad. He was terrible. We didn't know what he was doing. How he still got a job in the NFL is a different matter altogether. So the optimism around the Saints, and sorry, I can't believe I just said that. As he said, was that you would be able to, because that was a division that was basically there for the taking. Somebody just had to put a team together.
Yeah.
And it seemed like you'd put all the pieces, and now, like, start of the season, the Saints have come out absolutely flying, tailed off a little bit now after week 2 or 3, after week 3 or 4. How do you feel it's gone so far? Do you feel it is still bedding in? Do you still feel, because I think, and I want to say this, I'm pretty sure I called you as NFC South champions when we did our pre-show.
I feel like we all did.
I think we all led that way, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could have predicted where we're at right now with the NFC South. It's turning out to be one of the most interesting. I mean, let's forget about the Panthers, because they've not even shown up for practice this season.
I don't think the Panthers deserve to be playing football right now. But
let's kind of forget them. But nobody could have predicted the Bucs coming out as strong as they have. I don't think. Obviously they're 3-1 now. They're going to be 3-2 after tonight. But
love it.
They are. But the Saints. I mean, there's rumors Devontae Adams is maybe going to sign at the Saints. I mean, I know he wants Jets, but I think the Raiders might be a bit sneaky and just throw him somewhere he doesn't want to go for the sake of he spat his dummy out.
Yes, we're going to trade you to where we want to trade you rather than where you want to go.
Yeah, and I think that would devastate us. Our chances at NFC South, to be honest. I think if he goes to Saints and plays well there, which he could do.
Meeting up with Derek Carr, they've got that relationship. Yeah, the Saints.
The Saints offense looks scary already. Yeah, exactly. If they get Devontae Adams as well, that's scary.
Formidable.
I'm literally just looking at them now. They've already scored 127 points, which is higher than anybody. Bit of a sneaky one just thrown there, to be fair. Other top scorers, Bills with 122. The Commanders have thrown for 121 points, by the way. Commanders just sneaky good thrown out.
Sneaky
good throw. Yeah, if Devontae Adams goes to the Saints, that's an offense and a half, because they look scary.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
looking more likely it's the Jets, isn't it? But we have to consider it. I think that if we can stay, I know Bijan Robinson's been out of training this week for Monday, Tuesday, or he's been partial training because of a hamstring injury. he did manage a full training session yesterday, so they've
so
got him starting tonight.
Up and shouldn't go. Yeah.
Oh,
but I don't. The good thing, and it was quite odd when you guys did trade Bijan, because I was really high of his rookie year. I had him, go back to fancy. I had him everywhere in fancy, and then of course the Falcons come along and trade for Bijan, get Bijan. It's like, for crying out loud. And you've seen when Algier does come in, he offers a different type of run to Robinson. So even if Robinson's maybe carrying something, I think the backup you've got is more than capable of leading it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I think Bijan Robinson. I'm wearing his shirt right now. I have a massive soft spot for him. I think he's a good guy. It's one of the good ones. And seeing what he can do when he's on form, there's a bit of magic there, especially since Cousins has come in. There just is something. I'd love to see it all coming together with Kyle Pitts and Robinson and Algier, like really working that strategy in. I don't think we've quite gelled yet. I don't think Cousins is fully embedded into the team yet. I think he's doing well.
Do you think he's fully fit? Do you think he's or do you think he's still? I think something.
We've seen that from the way that First of all, I feel personally he takes so much time making his plays that he's asking to be sacked. He's asking for trouble. He's not getting through the pocket. He's not getting to where he needs to be at a lot of the time, because it's like he's almost like wooden, like he's kind of stuck, and a little bit, dare I say it, maybe a little bit scared. Further injury potentially. I don't know. He seems. There's no denying he's a good player. He knows what he's doing strategically. Brilliant. I think he'll make a great coach when he retires in 2 years' time. But I feel like Penix isn't ready to join our team. They've spent so much money on Cousins. They're not going to, replace him anytime soon. I don't think he's fully fit. I don't. I think, he has these moments, though. You see these moments of genius with him and you think, that's what we want to see all the time.
Yeah.
And, look at Goff last week, for example. He never missed a throw. He hit every...
18 for 18.
Literally.
Terrible.
The record, setting records left and right. Cousins is lucky if he can get the ball to one of our players sometimes. You know what I mean? He's
it does look like he's not properly... He's not pushing off that foot, and he's not pushing off that back foot yet.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't be surprised from as a professional athlete that I think because of the way his injury happened last year, where it was just, it wasn't like somebody fell on it. It just went.
Yeah.
So obviously, subconsciously, when you're stepping through and you're doing that same action, you're doing it again. There's probably, but it's weak coming up. It doesn't look to be really, so how much longer with Penix sitting on the bench do you think he has? Or it's like you're riding with Cousins no matter what because of the contract and the money you're giving him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like surely, at least for this season, because of the contract situation, like it's got to be Kirk Cousins' team, right? I feel like this team is still, like, so much of it's still up in the air. They're still figuring stuff out, right? Like we said, it feels like people like Kirk Cousins. He's had quite a few good seasons in the NFL, but like Kyle Pitts, it still feels like he's finding his place, right? And I feel like every year he's been that player that's like he's going to have. This is going to be.
It's going to be Kyle Pitts' year.
Yeah, right. Like I feel like every year has been like, right, this is the one. Kyle Pitts is going to blow up, and it still hasn't happened. I mean, we're only 4 games in, but I feel like of all the people that you'd maybe want to help him kind of unleash that, someone like a Kirk Cousins who's been around, done it for so long, probably would be one of the best kind of guys to have in that situation, right? Then maybe next season, with all the contract ramifications, you can maybe look at getting Penix in. Because I think I remember seeing, I want to say it was Mike Florio running through the numbers. And although it is a ridiculously long, big deal, it kind of looks like after 2 years, or maybe even after this year, if possible, the Falcons would have an out and a way to make it work in that it wouldn't just cripple them forever. So obviously it is a big, long deal. But if you kind of actually like look at the proper structure of it, it might just be a this year jobby and then Next year might be 50-50, and then they kind of might look to phase Kirk out. So I feel like maybe this year they're just kind of using Kirk to figure everything out and be like, right, this is how the team's going to work. Then we can look at putting Penix in. But that's from like an outside perspective. I don't know how it looks from an actual Falcons view.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like I said, I think they've brought him in as kind of a mentor figure to try and gel the team. I struggle a little bit with Cousins' personality. I find that he feels forced all the time. Everything that he does feels like it's kind of cringy and forced. And when he's going on with his swag and his ice and trying to be the coolest guy ever. And I just think you look like you should have your shirt tucked in and your trousers pulled up and your loafers on, reading a Sunday newspaper. You shouldn't be, I don't know. I feel like he's very forced. But
it does.
I have his shirt. I like him.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a UK sort of. Look at him and he's got the chains and it's like he's trying to be, the Steve Buscemi famous, little meme is like hello fellow youths type feel to it. It's almost like he's trying to be in with the kids where you're the you should be, as you say, with your tucked in out on the golf course, and I'm sure he is doing that. Just does feel like, is he trying too hard? Or maybe, maybe he just manages his external persona very well, that, when you suddenly see this maybe is what he's like, but he's just, very well managed out externally, so that from a media perspective and an outside, we don't see that is maybe how he is. It does, because when you see some of those, you're like, that's not a good look for it. And, you realise that he's been in the NFL now for however many years he is, and he is 37 or whatever else. So not surprised it looks a little.
Sorry, mate, you might cut out just a bit there.
No, I think I stopped talking and I was waiting for somebody else to say something. It was like an awkward vote. And one thing I was going to say, and one thing, and Matty will appreciate this, I'm just going to ask you one quick question, Meg.
To QB or not to QB?
Oh my God! Even when Alex's not here, he's here. Ah, amazing. He'll be very happy.
Alec will be happy. Do you think there's ever a chance, and then we know we just briefly talked about it and said it, Kirk Cousins' team, do you think Penix makes a run for the team if things tail off really quite badly and you're out of contention?
Yeah, I think by Christmas, start of December, I think if things don't improve, and I know we're steady right now, but if things don't have quite a decent upturn and we don't look like we're winning that NFC South, I feel like there might be some changes.
That's kind of spicy, but I quite like the idea of this. I remember listening to a UK football podcast once, and they always do this thing where they're like, how bad would the next game have to be for the manager to get fired? I quite like this concept of how bad would the Falcons season have to be for Kirk Cousins to get sacked off? But yeah, by Christmas is spicy. That I feel like that would have to be things going dramatically wrong. Like the Falcons just falling off the face of the earth. Whilst
losing to all of the divisional rivals, even the Panthers type.
Yeah, I mean, if we lost the Panthers, then Raheem Morris is gone. Kirk Cousins is gone.
Like a 70 burger on the Falcons. Kirk is gone.
Kirk is out of there. Yeah.
We have the Panthers on the 13th, so 10 days away. So
with Andy
we have them next.
Probably still with Andy Dalton at the helm, who has made them a little bit more competitive. They've got the win. Granted,
they've made progress.
They've certainly can throw. I
feel like you'll take the step forward that they've made. I feel like a lot of us were very skeptical when Bryce Young was benched, mainly because I don't doubt Bryce Young, and I feel like the Panthers have shown that as a franchise they have not really a fantastic record of signing QBs and making them better. I would say is a fair assessment of the current regime. I would say, or
have a clue is also another
valid.
Valid assessment. Yeah,
That's valid. Yeah, I would say so. So, yes, we're thinking. So we're thinking the Panthers are probably out of this already after 4 games. So how do you see the rest of the season for the Falcons playing out? Do you see this as like the division is ours? Like, do you think a lot hinges on like tonight's game? Like, how do you see this playing out? And I guess like how would you be happy with this season playing out? I suppose those are 2 different questions.
So I think, firstly, I think on paper, our fixtures look pretty, dare I say it, easy. You know, if you look at our,
you've got the easiest schedule, strength of schedule and stuff like that. So,
but we know that on paper, you know, the end of last season, on paper, the games that we should have been winning, we weren't winning. Now, whether that's going to be different this season with our new team, our new coach, maybe. I think that, you know, the Bucs, like I said, they've come out the box racing. You know, they really are doing well and they're playing well. Baker Mayfield's made a massive impact there. He's playing well consistently. You know, they've had a blip. I won't take away the fact that they have a strong team that seems to be, you know, defying the odds. So I think they're a big threat. Saints are obviously my absolute least favorite team. I have nothing positive to say about the Saints. We'll probably have to leave that there because
that's probably as nice a comment as you're going to get out of a Falcons fan about the Aints. So we'll just we'll move on quickly before we have to get the bleed test out.
Panthers, I feel like, you know, I almost feel sorry for them, which is like the worst place you could be. You don't want anybody feeling sorry for you, do you? But, you know, it's a 3-horse race. And at the minute, tonight's game is a hinge game. You know, it really is. It's going to show who's worth their salt. You know, can we step up to the challenge of the Bucs and how they've been playing? And if we can, you know, having just beat the Saints, who knows? Absolutely, it could be ours. I have a fairly substantial bet on with someone that the Falcons are making the playoffs this year. So
the only way if you lose this bet is the question.
No one. So it's with a Pats fan though. So it has to, you know, yeah. So it has to go well, because otherwise, you know, I'm poor for the summer. But no, and purely because it's a Pats fan.
You can't be losing to a Patriots fan.
I can't be losing.
God, no. There's
absolutely no way. So, you know, the only way that I'm going to be happy with this season ending is if we're in the playoffs. Even if it's a wild card. I'll take the wild card, but we need that playoffs spot. Otherwise, I'm going to be very sad. And my draft prep's going to be...
It's going to be an interesting one because I'm not sure more than 2 teams come out of the South, considering the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, it'd be a tough ask, I think.
It'll be a tough ask to get 2 teams out of that division when you consider teams that will be the record. So, yeah, it's an interesting. This is a match. So you're already 1 up in the division, I think, after beating the Saints last week. So, a win, interdivisional win against the Bucs, who are fielding what they're doing. Baker Mayfield thing is he's dragging that team, kicking to positions to win games when they probably shouldn't, which is kind of what he does as a QB. So it is interesting that I think from your point of view, you match up well against them, especially in your secondary, because that's where that's where the Bucs are hurting people with Godwin and Evans. But your back 3, it's a good backfield you've got back there. So I think that's your strength there. So I think tonight, tomorrow morning's game is going to be, that's where it's going to be won and lost in that area. So it should be a real cracking game to watch for the neutrals. I think there's really good, but it will be interesting. Comes out on top, and hence probably has bragging rights for in the South.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird because I feel like the Bucs didn't really do anything to get better in the offseason. So I feel like there's kind of 2 ways of looking at the Buccaneers, right? I feel like there's a lot of continuity. They've kind of stayed very the same as they did last year. And obviously their team last year was fine. It got them to a good position. They dumped the Eagles out in the playoffs, which Sorry, moving on. That's me having a moment. So yeah, good continuity, absolutely fantastic. But then there's kind of the other side, which is if you're not getting better when the other 31 teams are, then in essence you're kind of going backwards, right? So I would say it's probably surprising to a point how well the Buccaneers are doing. I do really like what Baker Mayfield is doing though. Don't know if anybody saw the mild spat on the coverage between Tom Brady and it's probably a nice little segue actually. So
nice little segue to
for anyone that hasn't seen it, the Buccaneers were just kind of playing their game, just hanging out. And then all of a sudden, the football coverage just kind of turned into like an absolute bitch fest for about 2 minutes. It was really weird. It sounds like Baker Mayfield made a slightly sarcastic comment that was like, well, these guys are having fun playing football with me now, Tom.
Quite did comment, I think, when he was asked in his press conference that what he's doing differently. And it's like, I think his comment was, I came into the building, everybody was stressed. Now
people were not having fun, yeah.
People were not having fun, and I've come in and everyone's having fun. And then as somebody in the booth was asked to respond, and responded in a rather...
Thomas Brady did not take that very well. Was basically like, well, I find not fun not having Super Bowl rings. Baker, you suck.
Which, let's be honest, is quite a mic drop to throw back there. It's just like,
if I'd have wanted to have fun, I'd have gone to Disneyland with my kids. Okay, Tom.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, all right, buddy.
You can't. I mean, it made me laugh, but then you're like, you can't argue with him, though, can you? Because
no, he's not.
And he made that team whole championship winning team. But
which, looking back at it now, because I do remember that being that was my first game, was that Chiefs Bucks Super Bowl, and kind of looking back at it now, it's kind of crazy how much difference one man. I say just one man. It's Tom Brady's. Like him or him, he's the guy.
I think we know what Nick does. But...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll come to that. But it's crazy kind of how much effect that one person can have on the team. Obviously, that would totally change the mindset of the whole locker room, which is, I guess, what this whole beef is about. I mean, neither of them are wrong. I guess to Tom's point, yeah, it's probably stressful not having Super Bowl rings, and he sat there like, I can't even fit all mine on one hand. Eat a dick, Baker. But then Baker's like, well, at least we're having fun. Now, you know what? Baker's making a lot of money and having fun doing it. I can't really argue with that. Like, get that bag, son. But yeah, Meg, any opinions on Tom Brady?
Any opinions?
Lots. Any opinions on Tom Brady? Wow,
sorry,
Falcons fan of their
Meg,
opinion
as our
Tom
guest
Brady.
on this show, do you have any thoughts you would like to share about Tom Brady?
Firstly, golf clap for Baker Mayfield, because, let's say it how it is. No one likes Tom Brady. Unless you're a Pats fan who followed them when they beat the Falcons in 2017. But, no shade. Tom Brady has this, whiter than white, golden balls image that he presents. A little bit Kirk Cousins-esque, won't lie. Mm-hmm. Very reminiscent there between the two. Except he does things out of left field, like, if we look back, was it 2022, the game Falcons, and he gets a call that he shouldn't have got, and
Tom
gets
Brady
up and
was
just
not renowned for that.
Kicks Grady Jarrett. I mean, don't come for my boy. Do not come for my boy. Not once, twice. And it was only because that mistaken call that he was given in that game that they then reviewed and fined him $11,000, or what was it, $11,200, whatever it was.
Either way, yeah.
Either way, let's not come for Bijan Robinson, please. Thank you. For Grady Jarrett, thank you. He obviously Super Bowl.
That one.
We're not over it.
Still bitter.
A little bit bitter. I'm gonna lie. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Nope. I don't think any other fans are also going to let it go away.
No, I mean, fair play. fair play. We dropped the ball. But I also just feel like he has this arrogance about him where he, everybody crowns him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And, amazing player. One of the best. No one can deny it on technicality. But there's this arrogance. And I'm like, your wife left you for a tennis coach, mate. Calm down. Let's move past this. You're not the be all and end all. You don't get to come on and lord it over everyone with this arrogance. Let's calm it down. Let's take a little bit of a, reality check. Bring yourself back down to earth. We're not living on Mars yet, but yeah, Tom Brady. He's someone.
I was surprisingly lucid and didn't descend into screaming, which I can feel was just under the surface. The bubble is just bubbling under. He skated over a few things, and I think to counter it and to play devil's advocate, by winning that many Super Bowls and being that good, you probably have earned a level of arrogance of, hey, look, I am that good because I came into Tampa, which was a bit of a car crash prior to his arrival. Team around, took it to a Super Bowl, kept them in contention for years. I cemented his legacy. Was like, is it Belichick? Can they do it separately? Or Tom went to Tampa, proved it was him over Belichick because we saw what happened to the Patriots once he left. So, there's all that sort of counter argument, but I do taken that into his new job in the booth, and he is lauding it a little bit. And maybe it's as we just said about the Falcons, they're still learning their new roles. Maybe he still has to understand that. But there are moments like, as Matty said, yes, it's funny from the outside, but you can imagine that if that continues, him getting niggly and gnarly and being that sort of way, maybe NBC or whoever it was who threw billions at him might rethink their plan. I'm on the fence about it because I don't think he was a better quarterback than Joe Montana because he had a whole different era completely. But you can understand when results against it, you're kind of like, it's hard with all of that. He wasn't the lily white prince of the NFL that seems to be, the wash that's been put against it. We all remember the Flake, that sort of season. He has a number of times had benefits of the tuck rule call, for example, that just talk about things like that, and the benefit of maybe what the Chiefs are getting now with favorable officiating. So yeah, it's an interesting one that the prince, the shining light of the NFL is never really that way. But then any elite athlete player who gets to the top of their game, it's probably never going to be Mr. Nice Guy. Or, they're always going to have that edge of, must win at all costs. So, yeah, but I can totally get why certain teams have more animosity towards him than.
I think as well that he, a lot of the time, projects this kind of idea that he won the whole team the Super Bowl 7 times. If you're a great quarterback, that's amazing. But if you've not got a decent team behind you, you've not got a good D-line behind you, you've not got, your wide receivers aren't playing ball and don't gel with you, you don't have, the ability to take a team on your own. He didn't single-handedly stay on that field and take them to Super Bowl. And I think he forgets that. And I think that's where a lot of my issue with his attitude is that he very much carries this. Well, I did that. I went there and I did that for you, as if it's, kind of owned by him. So I could see where, as Baker Mayfield was saying, he came in and the team was miserable and they weren't having fun, and now they are. Yeah, because if you've got someone if you're playing your ass off every week and you've got one guy who's like, yeah, but I did that, it would grind on you. I would be annoyed. I would end up, in jail probably.
I suppose just to play devil's advocate a little bit, just to play the other side of the coin, I guess. I suppose the way he could frame that is, I know throughout his career, he quite famously did take some team-friendly deals, right? So that they could keep that team around him so that it wouldn't just be like a bit of a trash fire. Like we thought that like Buffalo were going to be, right? With this massive Josh Allen contract, we kind of thought they were just going to be this like floating trash.
Josh Allen plus.
It was going to be the definition of Josh Allen is just the entire team. Like Josh Allen throws to Josh Allen. Josh Allen has the ball off to run from Josh Allen. Like, it was, I suppose, just to play the other side, he did take team friendly deals to make sure that there was still going to be like a unit around him. But yeah, I'm not going to throw up too much of a defense. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like the biggest fan of the guy, but again, just out there, I'm sure there are people that like Tom Brady. He's relatively famous. Don't know if anyone listening to this pod has heard of him, but yeah, he did take quite team friendly deals to ensure that there were still some very good players around him. But yes, even though the quarterback is of course the most important position, and if you don't have a quarterback, even if you've got a ridiculously good team, take like the Dolphins right now as a kind of prime example of this. If you don't have the guy under center, it's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean it is entirely on said quarterback. There's 52 rather other important people on that roster. Like it's not just one guy.
Probably drift slowly away from Tom Brady now. I think Meg would appreciate that.
Do you know what? I'm just a really quick one. I want some just flash opinions, mainly because he's taken over from Greg Olsen, and Greg Olsen was like my favorite color analyst. What do we actually think of him doing a job in the booth? Like, I think he's all right, but like,
he's okay at the moment.
Yeah,
I think he's still, as I said, I don't think he's quite worked out that he's not playing and he's not being the general and telling everybody the play. So I think he doesn't know whether to do like analyze the QB play and be like nerdy right into the weeds of it, or kind of be I don't think he's quite worked out that he's the color commentator and therefore he's supposed to add value. He's not found his niche area there of is he supposed to like nerdy analyze it super over the top, or is he going to just come in and go, I'm Tom Brady.
I feel like taking over from Greg Olsen as well, who like he was probably my favorite color analyst. I know like a lot of people loved this guy. I feel like that's some quite tough boots to fill, right? Like I don't know, so like Baker Mayfield going into Tampa, maybe that's some pretty tough boots to fill. But that's just a personal gripe. I feel like
get out there.
Yeah, I feel like Greg Olsen's like a little bit of a man crush. Like follow on him Instagram now. I know he does a lot of stuff with George Kittle. I'm like, cool, yeah, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on from Tom Brady chat now. I feel like that's enough trauma dumping from everyone here.
Yeah, bring back Greg Olsen. Put Greg Olsen back on.
Bring back
Greg. I think until Tom does his apprentice and does the year, and like Greg Olsen did the same. He wasn't great in the beginning. He rough and tumbled and stuff, but they didn't put him on all the primetime games until he was ready. And then suddenly they went, "This guy knows what he's talking about. He's confident. Away you go." Whereas I think they've thrust Tom Brady right front and center. Of course, why wouldn't you? Sells advertising space. But he's in that sort of rookie year where he's not really sure of some of the bits and pieces with the rest.
But you look at Jason Kelce and the fact that he's kind of stepped into not the same role but similar role, and the kind of charisma and the personality and the banter and the jokes that he brings to the role, and he's rookie. He's not had the experience. I'm a massive Jason Kelce fan, not an Eagles fan, but I love Jason Kelce.
And I suppose that's massively important, isn't it? Because Tom Brady never struck you all the way through as the guy with the fun attitude or the kind of banter and the joke around. He was the guy who would drive a team, he would get a team focus and whatever else. But he was never the guy that you would go to the bar with.
No.
Whereas Jason Kelce, Greg Olsen, those sorts of players, they would work hard, they would do that, but they would also party hard and play hard and enjoy themselves. And that's what you kind of need in that kind of commentator, add a bit of spice to what everybody's watching, because everybody's knowledgeable. If you're watching football, you're not a football game. You need some extra insights. Quite where Tom Brady's skill set is right now. Maybe it'll grow, maybe it'll develop, but who knows?
It'll come, I'm sure. I mean, it's he's obviously done a lot of work leading up to this. He seems like the kind of guy that's not afraid to put in a bit of work. Obviously, presumably, he would have had to do some work in his time as a professional player to achieve the things he did. So one would assume that if there is some,
he'll swat up and get
if there is some work to do here to get up to snuff, he's probably going to do it. I'm going to imagine, but yeah, we'll see. So if we're moving on completely from Tom Brady, shall we start chatting about tonight's game? How we're feeling?
I think we should. I think we definitely need to delve into Thursday night football. How are the Falcons representatives feeling?
As if it's the title of the entire show. Yeah, as a Falcons fan, how are you feeling about tonight? You feeling
47 minutes in?
Right, that's taken a while.
Well, can we start off by talking about the fact that we have done our throwback pitch? Because I'm in love with it. Have you seen it? So they've done the throwback painting where they've got the diamond lettering, they've got the OG logo in the middle of the field. We're obviously playing our throwback uniforms tonight, so it's kind of like all fitting in nicely together.
Those throwback uniforms, and those are possibly some of the nicest throwback uniforms. They tickle something in me from watching the Falcons when they were in the NFC, when we used to play them from 49ers regularly. Those were the uniforms they wore against us, and there's something just nostalgic about them, and which is what you want from a throwback uniform, is that it's kind of to think that way. Those are nice.
It's interesting that they've played, obviously, the weekend game, the Saints game, they played against they played with the throwback uniforms as well. So twice in a week is quite an interesting uniform choice. So starting with that, I feel like it sets the scene really nicely for us. Obviously, it's at home. It's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So again, gives us a little bit of an advantage. Or it should do, touch wood. I'm cautiously optimistic, I feel, about tonight's game. I think that we have the right pieces. It's whether we can move them in the right places and at the right times. Against, the Bucs O-line, let's be honest, no one saw it coming, but our D-line is kind of perfectly matched against the way that they're playing at the minute. And I feel like we've got a good chance, but that offense needs to get its game together from last week. Get the ball to Kyle Pitts, make sure that we are playing those passes much faster from Cousins, snapping the decisions, making the plays that maybe are a little bit adventurous. But let's be honest, you missed so many third down throws last week that we're getting forced. Ku's just being brought on and brought on and brought on and brought on. Field goal. But actually, we need the touchdowns. We need to be up in that score if we're going to get anywhere. And that has to come from the offense. And unfortunately, last week, they just weren't anywhere to be seen. I felt like every time Kirk Cousins threw the ball, I kind of shut my eyes and was like, hoped for the best.
As 49ers fans, we know how that feels. We had a few years of that with a number 10 and went 7 yards and the ball was off screen. It was like, oh, where's it going to come down? So totally get that the confidence level isn't play. So it is a big, and it's interesting though, because you don't want to bandy it around primetime game, and what you don't want is primetime, because he's got a history of not turning up on those big time primetime big TV games. You hope for the Falcons' sake and for the state of Georgia that they actually get a win at that stadium after the massive upset of the weekend as well. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting. It should be really tight. There are, as I say, some really great matchups. Your secondary against their wide, the trenches. I think it's an interesting on those trenches. Which line comes out on top over the four? It's an evenly matched area there. Will you be able to open up the lanes for Bijan and possibly Tyler? I don't know. I think you might have to be relying a bit more in the air game.
Yeah, and I think last week Algier just, he was there. He was in the places. He just wasn't getting the throws that were accurate enough to get to him. And, we can't have that again. We just, we can't be having these amazing players ready to make good play. And we're suddenly on 3rd down and 8 and having to kick a field goal. We're missing opportunities last week. And
it leaves you one-dimensional, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think, you can have the best defense in the world, but if your offense isn't doing what it needs to do, they can defend and defend and defend, but at some point
eventually they get tired. We've all seen that from teams which, I think the Jets last year were a prime example where they had a great defense. They kept the team in games for so long, but eventually just wear and tear and being on the field for so long, and their offense is so misfiring, just wears on the team. And then by the end of the season, I think the Jets defense had kind of just gone, we've tried. And get some of those players to start to feel like Devontae Adams is at the Raiders. This isn't working for me. I'm better than this. I need to be playing with better players, or I need to be in a position that showcases my talents more, because in the end, these guys are only in the football game for a short period of time and they need to get paid and they want to take care of themselves. So if they're getting in positions and you've got those skilled players and it's not quite gelling, and the guy who's got in the big bag isn't delivering, is it going to be rumbled? Does it lead to sort of some discontent a bit later on? Don't know, but it's supposed to be talking about tonight. Sorry, we're looking ahead.
No, I didn't really realize quite how much the offense had been. I say misfiring. That feels a bit harsh after 4 games, but the teams that have actually scored less points than the Falcons is only actually a handful. I'm just kind of looking at a list of these. So the only teams that have scored less than the Falcons, to be fair, most of them are some pretty god awful teams. But there's a couple of surprises in there. But the Panthers, yes, but only by 2. The Panthers have only scored 2 less points than the Falcons, which, I mean, the Panthers have looked god awful. The Rams have scored the same, so that doesn't count. Who else? The Giants have scored quite a few less, which I think is understandable. The Patriots have scored less. The Dolphins have scored less, which no one would have said at the beginning of the season. The Chargers have scored less, even though they've looked surprisingly quite good this season. The Broncos have scored less. The Cleveland Browns have scored less, not that they pay their quarterback any money at all. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have scored less.
Who also have a very highly paid QB.
Who also, there's a bit of a theme going on here. But I find it interesting because I feel again, looking at the weapons and who they've got under center on paper, this should be an offense that, I'm not saying they should be putting up the kind of stupid numbers that the Saints have put up through 4 games, or even the Commanders who kind of have randomly scored 121 points. But I suppose you'd expect them to be a little bit further than they are. I guess the only thing you would say is bringing in a new quarterback for that much money. Obviously, that's quite a big shift. Kirk is no spring chicken, and he's coming off a big injury as well. So there's obviously a lot there. And this Atlanta organization has been misfiring for a number of years. So it's not as if he's been coming into this team that's just used to winning and knows exactly what they're doing. So obviously there's excuses for it. But that I guess would be my one worrying thing about this Falcons team. I suppose the good thing they do have to fall back on, like you said, is your kicker is an absolute baller. Young Wicker is mental. He just looks so calm and composed.
Doesn't matter. He's walks out. It's 58 yards. Yeah, whatever.
I've just never seen him line up for a kick and not thought this is just going straight down the middle. He's going to absolutely slap this. 57 yards, that would have gone in from 90. I have no I have no fear in this man at all. So I suppose at least that is something good to lean on. I feel like you've got one of the more consistent, better kickers in the NFL.
I also think what's interesting about Young Hoku is that he has a really good relationship with Raheem Morris, and it struck up really quickly. They kind of bonded and gelled really quickly. They have their own secret handshake. Come on,
nice.
That's not often that a head coach and a kicker has a secret handshake.
Yeah, that's niche.
Right. So what does that say about Raheem Morris's?
Does it either say Raheem Morris is expecting his kicker, or it's one of those, isn't it? Does it show the level that Raheem Morris has got involved with the team?
I feel like Raheem Morris has surprised me, certainly, because I went in full of shade about Raheem Morris. I won't lie. I started off and I was like, I'm not going to like this guy because he's had his chance and he's coming back. And what's different? And I watch his press conferences after every game. I follow him on his socials, and I actually have a real soft spot for him. I can't help it. He's one of those people that he walked in and he was like, let's do this. We're a team. Let's, and I know most coaches are going to say that, obviously. But I feel like he believes it. And I think that sincerity and that, conviction in the team has helped the fans get on board with him and with the choices that he's making, even when we're not winning, the games. And we're last week, that game, I literally watched the end of the game with a pillow in front of my face and kind of peeked round to make sure that Q had made that kick.
Is it really going to happen? Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Because when they scored, with what, a minute on the clock, I was like, brilliant. Standard Falcons fan, the last minute of the game, we're out. So I feel like going into the games this season feels different for me than it did last season. So, there's a bit more optimism that, we can pull it back. We've got, like you say, we've got the weapons there. It's just, are we using them at the right time? Are we using them, together in the right way that makes the most sense and is the most impactful for our team, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose it's easy to look at externally and go, look at all the weapons they got gelling. Why aren't they doing better? And then you got to go, okay, those weapons are great, but you had new head coach who's just getting in and talk with there's a process where a new head coach comes in, has to completely change top to tail in an organization, because I think Arthur Smith took all of his coaches, took everything with him when he left, thankfully for you guys. So Raheem from the unfortunately you see the results last tends to be on the Sunday, but it's all the prep work and the training and all that sort of team building and morale. That's where I think the fans are on board, and he has done really well on that front, whereby I think he will then get the time, be under the microscope and it's like, oh, you're not performing, you should be doing better. I think he's got, I don't want to say brownie points as such, but he's got a bit of flexibility and leeway with the fans because they're bought in to see, okay, he's got a process. He wants us to do this. We just all have to get on board with it, and it'll take time to, turn around what was a pretty stinking ship at the end of last season. So I think
that, and the fact that, the owners are pushing for this progression in everything that we're doing right now. If you look at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and you look at the things that are going on, technological advancements, for example, crazy. We, had 95% return in season ticket holders this season. That's nuts. That's a huge figure. And I think that reflects that faith in the process that's ongoing at the minute, doesn't it? It's that, right, okay, you've got rid of the bad egg, the coaching staff from last season that needed to go. You've put your money where your mouth is, basically. I mean, we know that Cowboys Stadium has the most TV screens of any NFL stadium in the world or whatever.
Because they're too busy watching TV rather than their shocking team.
But we're investing in technology that means that fans can walk from their car to their seat, detouring at the shops and the stalls for food and drinks without even putting a hand in their pockets and taking a card out or a phone out to pay. It's all facial recognition, for season ticket holders. We're looking at, the advancements. I think sometimes we all get so focused in on who's on the field, who's playing, what are they playing, what are they doing. But actually, and I guess for us it's different. We're UK fans. We're not there every week. We're not at the stadium. We're not seeing these things. But what really interests me is the kind of background stuff that goes on that gives the fans that loyalty and that faith and that, that return rate on season ticket holders, for example. It's massive. That is huge.
Yeah.
All right then, kiddies. We're getting pretty close to an hour here, so I suppose there's only one thing. There's only one thing left to do. I think we need to get some score predictions in.
Score predictions.
Gary, come on.
Do we let the guests go first, or do we save that? All right.
I think we need to save it. We need to save the inside. We need to give our terribly uninformed opinion, and then
terribly uninformed
who actually knows what's happening. I'll tell you what. No, go on.
You're gonna go. Go.
Oh, don't do this to me. I thought I was going to be all brave, and then I had a goof. Yeah, divisional matchup always spicy. As Niners fans who've They're still recently in the memory come off that Rams game that there was surely no way we could lose that. We know that divisional matchups can be rather painful, even if they seem like they're going to be a walk in the park. I do like what the Buccaneers have got going on this season, but as we've kind of spoken, I do feel like the Falcons match up really nicely against the Bucs. I feel like this could be a bit of a sticky game for the Buccaneers. I don't know. I'm not expecting it's going to be a particularly high scoring game, and I feel like it's going to be fairly close. I will go. Oh god, yeah, but whoever I back normally loses, don't they? That's always how this goes.
Yes.
Right, with that in mind and the theme of the show, I will go that the Bucks win 20-17. Just know that will mean the Bucks will lose. It's now.
I was just going to say that the over under is 43.5 points, which I think I'd be smashing the under on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll go Bucks win 20-17, which, like I said, that means Bucks get shut out. Falcons dunk a 70 burger on them. That's normally how my predictions work. Just for the record, for anyone that wasn't keeping track last year, I did say last year in the year 2023 that the Los Angeles Chargers would win the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if anyone was keeping track of last season. They finished bottom of the division. Nowhere near the Super Bowl. So we'll see how that goes. Gary, Falcons, Bucks. What are you saying?
Again, those divisional games which could coin toss.
It always adds a little bit of
of spice. Falcons are 2-2. The Bucks. Just as Meg says, they were flying. They had a bit of a blip, kind of righted the ship a little bit. I think it's a short week. I think the fact that it's at home should lend itself. I think the Falcons are like 2-point favorites or something. I think it's going to be like a Young Waku last kick of the game. Again, I'm sorry for your nerves, Meg, and I'm sorry for the fact that that's going to be at 5 a.m. Friday morning. You're going to have to stick it out and watch right to the end. The only reason we know that is we do it so often as UK fans. We know these times. But I've got a feeling you can't. It's not going to be one of those ones you turn off at halftime going, got this game sewn up. This is going to be nip and tuck all the way. I think defenses are going to be on top. I don't think either offense is going to be able to stretch and able to kind of take the game away from the other one. So I've got the Falcons coming out like 21-18. Something like literally or maybe even like 21-20, something kick of the game where you nail it. But at least you've got a kicker that you can literally hang your stadium on and it's going.
Yeah, so it's definitely a nice thing to fall back on. Right. The moment we've all been waiting for. Meg, how do you feel? I
feel like we're going to get a decent score. I think I'm going to put my money on 28-24 to Falcons.
Ooh.
Yeah. In my head, I'm not going to lie, I was going higher. I was going 31-24.
Oh.
But I'm not going to be that optimistic.
Shootout score. Wow.
Yeah, there's less than a touchdown in it. I think 28-24. I'm going to stick with.
Okay. Like I said, I feel like division games are always that little bit closer. Like even if your team is that floating trash bag, just because of how well you obviously know these franchises compared to literally any other franchise in the league. Even if your team is absolute dog water, there is always like, yeah, we might be bad, but we also know 95% of all available information about you guys. So I do think this is going to be a spicy one. But I believe then, I think that just about wraps us up. I think
that wraps it up. It does. Honestly, Meg, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I really appreciate you jumping on, coming in, talking about your love of the Falcons. It's quite clear to anybody watching and listening how much passion you have for the team in red. I wish you the best for the rest of the season. Your team is in that interesting division, and that's really in an interesting position. And it will be, if possible, we'd love to get you back on a bit later on in the season, see how you're getting on, whether or not it's a QB controversy. Kirk has righted the ship. You're storming your way to the playoffs, but it'd be great to have you back later on in the season. But for now, really appreciate you coming on, and thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
Have you got anything you'd like to promote just before we sign off everything?
Yeah, my TikTok ballers_meg is just a new little startup. So love anyone to go over there and give us a follow. And Ballers Broadcasting is our kind of podcast franchise that we're in the middle of setting up at the minute.
Excellent stuff. Look forward to seeing it all play out. Gary, outro this nonsense. Hit the buttons. Let's get it done.
Thanks very much. Go Thursday night football. Enjoy. Staying up late, staying up early, whatever it is. Lots of coffee Friday morning. Good luck for tonight, Meg. And thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now.